Welcome to Storied Audio. Greg Whitman had everything a person was supposed to want, at least, that's what everyone kept telling him. A corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a salary that made his parents beam with pride, a sleek condo decorated with clean lines, soft lighting, and expensive furniture he barely touched. On paper, Greg's life looked perfect, but perfection didn't keep him warm at night. Most evenings, Greg walked into his condo and was greeted by a silence so heavy it felt like a second presence waiting for him. He'd drop his keys on the counter, loosen his tie, and stand there for a moment, letting the emptiness settle around him. He hadn't been on a date in over a year, not because he couldn't, but because every attempt felt hollow, forced, like he was performing the role of a man who had it all together instead of actually being one. He wanted connection, real connection, but somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten how to find it. One morning, on his way to work, he stopped at his favorite coffee shop, the one place where the barista knew his order and the world felt a little less sharp. The smell of roasted beans and warm pastries wrapped around him like a familiar blanket. He stepped outside, cup in hand, already sorting through meetings in his head. Then he heard it. Greg. A soft voice. Gentle. Familiar in a way that tugged at something buried deep inside him. He turned, and his heart stumbled. Haley Thompson, his best friend from middle school. The girl who used to race him to the swings, who shared her lunch when he forgot his, who moved away in 8th grade and took a piece of his childhood with her. She looked older, of course. Everyone did, but her smile was exactly the same. Bright, warm, disarming. Haley, he breathed. She laughed, delighted. I can't believe it's you. What are the odds? He felt himself smiling back, something inside him loosening for the first time in years. It's been wow. Too many years. Way too many, she agreed. Do you have time to talk? I'd love to catch up. He didn't hesitate. Yeah, absolutely. They went back inside and found a small table by the window. And for the first time in a long time, Greg forgot about work. Forgot about loneliness. Forgot about everything except the woman sitting across from him. They talked for hours. Haley told him she got married young, too young, and divorced a few years later. It was a disaster, she admitted, stirring her coffee. I think I ignored every red flag because I didn't want to start over. Greg nodded, understanding more than she knew. I've been in a few serious relationships, but nothing close to marriage. I probably worked too much. She smiled at him, soft and knowing. You always did. When they finally stood to leave, the sun had shifted across the sky. They hugged, longer than old friends normally would, and exchanged numbers. As she walked away, Greg felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Haley burst into her apartment, cheeks flushed, heart fluttering. Her roommate Jenna looked up from the couch. You look like you just won the lottery. I ran into an old friend, Haley said, trying and failing to sound casual. Is he handsome? Haley's face warmed. Very. And he looks successful. Jenna grinned. Jackpot. Haley didn't answer, but her blush said enough. Greg spent the evening pacing his condo, replaying every moment. Her laugh, her smile, the way she listened like he mattered. By the weekend, he worked up the courage to ask her out. She said yes. Dinner was easy, effortless. They talked like no time had passed at all. Afterward, they walked by the river, fingers brushing until finally, naturally, their hands intertwined. Greg felt like he was stepping into a life he'd forgotten he wanted. But then someone shouted her name. A man stormed toward them, anger twisting his face. Haley stiffened beside him. Mark, she whispered. My ex. Mark hurled accusations, cheating, lying, abandoning him. Haley stood her ground, voice shaking but firm. We're divorced. I don't owe you anything. When Mark lunged at Greg reacted on instinct, stepping aside and using the man's momentum to send him tumbling down the riverbank and into the water. Haley gasped, but Greg assured her he was fine, just wet and embarrassed. She filed a restraining order the next day. For a while, things calmed down. Greg and Haley grew closer, movie nights, long talks, quiet mornings with shared coffee. She fit into his life like she'd always belonged there. Her laughter filled the spaces that had once felt unbearably quiet. But one evening, Greg noticed a car parked across from his home. Same car, same spot, night after night. Mark. Greg confronted him. Mark sped off. Greg didn't tell Haley. He didn't want to worry her. He should have. Weeks later, Jenna called Haley in a panic. Mark had forced his way into their apartment. Haley called Greg, and he drove without hesitation. When he arrived, Mark had a knife. Greg acted fast, disarming him, holding him until police arrived. Mark was arrested for breaking and entering, violating a restraining order, and assault with a deadly weapon. Haley arrived moments later. Jenna hugged her tightly. "Your new boyfriend is amazing." Haley looked at Greg, eyes shining with gratitude and something deeper. Love. After that night, Haley moved into Greg's home. Jenna found a new apartment with better locks and fewer unhinged ex-husbands. Greg and Haley settled into a rhythm that felt natural, comforting, right? They cooked together. They laughed together. They healed together. 6 months later, Greg proposed on the riverbank where their hands first intertwined. Haley cried, said yes, and kissed him like she was claiming the future she'd always wanted. Their wedding was small and warm. Jenna stood beside Haley as maid of honor, beaming. During the reception, she nudged Greg. "So, you got any single friends?" Greg laughed. "I'll see what I can do." Haley slipped her hand into his, smiling up at him with all the love in the world. For the first time in his life, Greg didn't feel lonely. He didn't feel empty. He didn't feel like he was performing a role. He felt whole, because success meant nothing without someone to share it with. And now he had her. Subscribe to the channel for more audio stories.